Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Freedom on Deck on 94.9 News Now and Stimulating Talk. I'm Mean Chet Martin, joined as always by the redneck Brian Breaux.
Oh, baby, it was a fun day over on the Congress Hill.
And the fearless one himself, CV Berton.
It is divine providence that you stumbled on this station today because we are the voices inside your head.
Absolutely. Listen, just before we get into the topics of the day, I just want to reiterate who we're having on this week. We are going to have Michael Greene on, Pastor Michael Greene, that is. He is from Miska, Blue Lives Matter, and that's a comfort dog that he brings around to veterans, to military members, and to police, children, seniors, to provide comfort and give them some medicine, some healing medicine that you can only get through one-on-one contact, and it's a great thing that he does. And we also have Thomas S. Schmitz. He's the editor from Conservatives4Palin. He's coming on with us. Sarah's back in the news. It's not so good what happened to her. It has to do with Sacha Baron Cohen tricking her into doing an interview by disguising himself as a wounded veteran. Totally unacceptable. And then we also have Dan Newmeyer coming on. You know him from the Dan Newmeyer Show. And we're going to talk Trump, bare brass, what he's accomplished, what he's doing across the pond right now, how he's putting his foot up everybody's you-know-what,
dude,
and telling them how it is.
Slapping CNN in the face.
And you can take that balloon that they constructed over in UK and shove it you-know-where, too.
Yeah. Hey,
like
do you think that one of them could snort it like a condom?
Maybe. There's a lot of that going on over there. But listen, we're going to talk about Peter Strzok, and everybody's been kind of digesting this over the week. On our midweek podcast, me and CV already talked about it a little bit. But what's going to be the crucial question, I think, and Americans are going to have to decide, is how 50,000 communications by the former FBI counterintelligence agents can simply be ignored. I mean, the bottom line is the man communicated with Gums McGee. I'm forgetting her name right now. What's her name again? Page. Lisa Page. And he was given some classified information out there at a time when they were conducting two different investigations, one on Miss Hillary Clinton and one on President Trump over faulty Russian probe, but still, it was still an investigation. Mm-hmm. And, he basically went in front of Congress and said, I did nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong here with what I did. I am not biased. But the issue to me are simply the text messages. It's that simple.
Listen, you can sit there and you can argue of what it means or what does the definition of is mean, or, all these ridiculous, it's grandstanding, and peacocking and all the other stuff. And this guy is arrogant, man. Arrogant. Boy, the faces he was making.
Creepy.
I mean, listen, ladies and gentlemen, there's a video out there. You can go see it of him. And, I mean, the faces that he's making, I mean, this guy is unhinged. He is not right in the head. And like you said, with the text messages, what's important is the facts. And the facts are what you wrote. And everyone has a pretty good understanding of the English language that speaks it fluently and can understand what you mean when you say, we will stop it. We is not the American people. We is the FBI.
Right.
And the deep state that you belong to. So I don't think it's all of the FBI agents that, are part of the FBI organization, but I think there is a certain group of high-level FBI agents that have been put in place by Barack Obama from his presidency that are still there, and they are working behind the scenes to undermine this administration.
Absolutely.
He's talking to another FBI official when he's saying, we will stop it. He's talking about the FBI, which is like the most corrupt thing. It's the scariest thing you could think of, is to have the full force of our FBI turned against the will of the American people.
Yeah. And
he comes out like so cocky, like he's a hero, like he's the hero of the resistance. And, he's glad-handing with everybody. They're slapping him on the back. He's smiling. He's all cocky. And then Jim Jordan questions him. And then the blood drains from his face. Mm-hmm. And he refuses to answer any questions that have anything to do with the dossier, who paid for the dossier, what was the catalyst to start the spying on Donald Trump. There was no... You're looking for a crime. Doesn't an investigation usually start with the evidence of a crime? But no, they're looking for an evidence of a crime that doesn't exist yet. And for over 2 years now, they still have no proof of any collusion.
And Jim Jordan, now, if you see what the left's trying to do, they're trying to dig up everything under the sun on Jim Jordan to pretty much a character assassinate Jim Jordan, who's a great man, a good Christian, a good family man, a good conservative. But, with this guy Strzok, what people need to understand and should understand, and I don't know that everybody does, I'm sure most of our listeners do, but if you talk to the average American, they're not paying attention enough to what it is, because he was the lead investigator.
Correct.
In the Hillary emails. He was the senior lead investigator in both of these investigations. And this is what he's saying. And it only took Mueller to release him when they figured out that it was coming out.
Oh, exactly.
That's the only reason he was let go. It was not Mueller that Mueller got in front of it. That's all.
Yes.
Deflections.
You're right.
Think about all the people Mueller has hired since he took over this investigation with this supposed Russian collusion. It's been all lefties. Mm-hmm. It's been all Democrats. Not one Republican. Not even a fake Republican.
All Trump haters.
Right? Yep. Not even a fake Republican. At least give us that.
Not even McCain.
Not even McCain.
But if you can't see that this stinks, I mean, for God's sakes, in one of the text messages, he said that he was in a Walmart. I don't know where, Podunk or whatever.
Yeah, right.
And he says, "Oh, I can smell them."
South Virginia.
And he called us. What did he say? We're morons.
Oh, he said you could smell the Trump support in here.
Right.
They called them all hillbillies.
Hillbillies.
Yep.
Oh boy.
Stupid hillbillies.
And the thing about it is, you're an FBI agent. You're supposed to represent all of the country. This is what we have in our higher intelligence agencies like this, law enforcement agencies.
Well, and it just came out, what was it, Friday, that Rosenstein came out with this indictment of 12 Russians.
Oh, we're going to get into that with Dan, because that's bull.
But and I'm not going to get into what he said and all the other stuff. But what the takeaway from it that pertains to this is that he said that no Americans were involved in any way with colluding with Russia again in the election, and which includes, I want you to read between the line, people, that includes our president.
Yes, and that's why
he didn't say it, but he said it.
But they said the same thing last time the 16 names came out about the supposed Russian spies that were involved. Why make these announcements when there is no collusion, especially when Donald Trump is in the middle of a whirlwind tour? Is it just to embarrass him? I think it was. Mm-hmm. I think that's why Rod Rosenstein did what he did.
It really didn't embarrass him. If anything, it solidified the fact that he had nothing to do with any colluding.
Wow. It was just a blow smoke, to hide the questioning of Strzok yesterday. I would have liked to hear a line of questioning to find out which of his superiors actually instigated this spying. How high does it go? He's second banana to Comey. Comey's under Obama.
Yeah, well, we'll be talking about this, I'm sure, for the next 3 to 4 years. Maybe finally we'll get some justice. But listen, come back. Child with cancer harassed online. Parents thanking Trump's family. Eric Trump. You're not going to believe this. Freedom on Deck. Welcome back, everybody, to Freedom on Deck. 94.9 News Now and Stimulating Talk, WJJF, Full Power Radio. Listen, really urge you to go to FreedomOnDeck.com because our partner here, CV Berton, did a great job. The site is being revamped as we speak, but it is started to get revamped, and we've got all the shows up there. We've got the new bios. You can go there and go to Facebook. You can go there and go to Twitter. You can go on there and go to our BitChute. You can go on there and go to our YouTube. It's a one-stop shop, and we're going to work on it a little more, and we're going to get it up to date, up to speed, and it's going to be a really big, huge deal for us, and we hope you enjoy it. And we can't thank him enough for the work that he's been doing for the show. Really good job.
Well,
yes, sir.
It's nice to have all the archives in one place.
Absolutely. I love it. I love the way you did it. You can just scroll down and grab whatever you want. If there's a particular topic that you're interested in, then you hit that. You can see the great thing about what CV does is he puts the artwork on the cover, and you don't even have to read it. You know what we're talking about just by the picture up there.
That's right, and it's the only place that you can go where double dipping's allowed.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Listen, this is sick. You know, we always ask how far can the left go? Well, when it comes to the left trolls on the internet, does anything really surprise you? Well, this one kind of did. Family of young cancer survivor was bombarded with abuse by left-wing Twitter trolls because they thanked Eric Trump for donating $16.3 million to the hospital that cured their little boy. Zach got cancer, age 4, and he's in remission after treatment at St. Jude's. His aunt, Sherry Hopper, thanked Eric Trump for donating to the hospital. After Eric replied, they were both sent hateful messages and tweets. Mrs. Hopper was even accused of being a Russian bot by angry Trump haters. And the cancer-suffering boy's family was really sent some very vile, nasty messages and comments, ones that I won't even get into. And, you know, seeing the picture of this boy with the breathing apparatus on his nose and the doll, you know what? You know what, man? That really, really pisses me off. And I'd like to be in a room with some of those maggots making comments like this to a little boy with cancer and his family, because I'd have something to say to you at the very least.
Maybe
guys,
in the midweek.
How twisted does this get?
Maybe in the midweek short, you can, express yourself more colorfully.
Maybe a little more,
on the podcast, because there are certain words you can't say right here.
No.
But what does that mean, Russian bots? I mean, you're a program. You're not a real person. You're fake. What does Russian bots even mean?
Even with disdain politically, wouldn't you think that seeing a child suffering with cancer and getting help from the Trump family, you would say to yourself, you know what, I'm not going to go there. You know, Brian, like I'm not going there.
No, you don't. You don't realize that they don't look at your children as human beings, as they're fair play when it comes to your kids. Now, it's not fair play if it was Barack Obama's kids or somebody else's kids or whoever, Nancy Pelosi's grandkids.
Right.
That wouldn't be okay. But it's okay when it's somebody who is thanking or may have some sort of affiliation with a person that is on the right side of the aisle. And the sickest part is that the only other thing that I can think of that acts that way towards the children of people is ISIS. They don't care about your kids. Muslims don't care about your kids. Your kids are fair game.
That's a good point, and it really is true. And and you see the hate of the left. Me and CV were talking about during the midweek podcast about this Michelle Wolf woman, this supposed comedian, and she put out this special on Netflix called God Bless Abortion, and she's out there making fun of it and making very vile comments about ripping babies out. When you take them out, make sure you get that baby out good. Yeah. And it only costs as much as 6 tickets. And we were talking about the fact that it really is a hatred towards children. isn't it?
I guess the best way to prevent Trump supporters is to kill them before they're born. Maybe they're just hedging their bets. They may become conservative, so let's just kill all babies.
Well, it really, it's put in the black neighborhoods, the Planned Parenthood offices and clinics where they commit genocide, in my opinion, are mostly put throughout the black communities. And those are mostly who are getting abortions. The statistics don't lie. They're there.
Well, and to get away from that for a second, because this is part that really upsets me too about this story, is that it wasn't just Miss Hopper and Eric Trump that were receiving these hateful messages, but it was even St. Jude Hospital.
Right.
I
know.
Like St. Jude Hospital is treating children with cancer, some of the most advanced and aggressive cancers that are known to us.
Right.
Okay? These kids,
saving children's lives.
Chance is to go to St. Jude. St. Jude does not charge a dime to these families that are getting help, that are getting treatment. They don't charge a dime to these families. So these kids that are going in there, it's not as though St. Jude has a prerequisite for treatment that says, hey, if you are a liberal, take your business and your cancer elsewhere.
Right.
Okay? They don't care. They don't care what your political affiliations are. They don't give a crap. What they do is take your sick child, treat them, make them well, and hand them back to you free of charge. This is an organization that dedicates their every single molecule to saving children. So when you go and you put out these nasty, vile, angry messages and tweets and Facebook posts about St. Jude, you're an idiot. And I hope your kid never is on the receiving end of cancer.
So do I.
And have to turn to St. Jude.
If you have the guts.
And I knew a little toddler who died of cancer. His name was Kindle, and he was a sweet little boy, and it was devastating. I mean, I went to his wake, and people were bawling their eyes out. It's a very, very horrible thing.
God.
So for these people who are trying to dehumanize anybody who's remotely related to the Trump campaigns or whatever, it's like dehumanize them. They're the ones who are not human.
And
They're not
what
human.
what nasty thing? I mean, let's think about this logically. Because most of the people that are listening to this program, I would think have a pretty sound mind. Who gets on somebody for donating $16 million to a cancer hospital for kids?
An evil, evil person.
How do you even begin that tweet? I want to know. I just want to know. How do you do it?
I don't know. I'm sure if we looked through them, and I looked through some, and I'd stop myself. I didn't see any to St. Jude's, but they're crazy. They're crazy people. They probably accused St. Jude of colluding with Putin. I mean, they're that sick. I mean, these people are insane. Oh, how could you take money from the Trumps? St. Jude needs to take every red cent that they can get from wherever it is. And mind you, we're going to get into a story a little later about Hillary Clinton taking money from these border, saving these kids on the border, and funneling it into the Clinton Foundation, and it's from the Washington Free Beacon. How do you like that? It is true what's going on over there, and it's the Democrats causing the atrocities. But anyway, listen, we're going to come back with Pastor Michael Greene. He's from Miska Blue Lives Matter, and also helps out with Vietnam Veterans of America, many other good charitable organizations. Come on back to Freedom on Deck. Welcome back to Freedom on Deck on 94.9 News Now and Stimulating Talk, WJJF on your FM dial, Connecticut, Long Island, and Rhode Island. Our first guest to the show today is the handler of Miska, a female civilian German Shepherd Husky who has been bringing love and support to police officers, service members, veterans, the homeless, seniors, and children. The page out there is on Facebook, and it's called Miska Blue Lives Matters. Has 46,000 followers as is, and we have Pastor Michael Greene on the program with us right now. Now, Pastor, thank you for coming by today. Explain to the listening audience a little bit about your background and what you do bringing Miska around to comfort those in need.
Thanks for having me on the show.
Absolutely, anytime.
In 2009, I began traveling from New York City to Walter Reed, the largest military hospital here in the state, and doing a lot of charitable work administering to combat wounded, primarily from Afghanistan, even though we still had troops in country in Iraq, but the majority of wounded coming in, it was a massive number from 2009 to about 2014 and 15, and that became pretty much my focus and my work for those years. It was a tremendous experience, rewarding, challenging, very emotional, very serious stuff, of course, being at the bedsides of these American heroes who were coming back here with catastrophic wounds from being in combat in Afghanistan. Growing up in New York City, I had quite a few friends who had served in the military, and they crossed over and they went into law enforcement. They became police officers with the NYPD. And in a community I used to live in as a child, there was a young police officer named Brian Moore who was shot and killed in the year of 2015. So I became very interested and wanted to do something to give back to the law enforcement community. So I connected with an organization in Indiana called A Quilt for Mother's Tears. And I started to financially sponsor and request memorial quilts that are handmade by a group of quilters, these women from this organization. And the first one I got a chance to present was at the 105th Precinct in Queens, New York, on the first year anniversary of the tragic death of police officer Brian Moore. And I had one for his mom and one for his dad. Subsequently, I've done other memorial quilt presentations for other NYPD that have been killed in the line of duty.
Now,
and then, yeah, go ahead, sorry.
No, go ahead, Mike. Well, I wanted to ask you real quick. Is Miska your dog? Is this something you do through an organization?
She's my dog.
Okay.
And, yeah, we started to spend time around NYPD officers, on the job, on the streets of New York.
Mm-hmm.
And we just started taking photos of her with officers in different parts of the city. And all of a sudden, I started looking at these photos on my computer. I was like, wow. And, I'm trying to capture interaction and, something special. So I decided to create a Facebook page, and I had no idea it would take off and get to the point it's at. Right now we're about 46,000, and we hope to go beyond that. But also, besides police officers here in New York City, we've taken her to veterans hospitals, many nursing homes, where we've brought her around a lot of our elderly citizens, some of them veterans, in fact. And it's just been a tremendous experience. She's a gorgeous dog, not because she's mine, but anyone who wants to go take a look at the Facebook page. She also has an Instagram, and the Instagram is Miska Blue Eyes. So it's spelled M-I-S-K-A, and then the word blue and eyes. And, what can be seen there are just tremendous videos and photos of her in all these different settings that I have mentioned.
She is a beautiful dog, and I got to tell you, what you guys do is a beautiful thing. But she's your dog, so does it take a special kind of dog to do what Miska does, or is it something that you just knew she had in her? I mean, to see the pictures of her with these folks that really need the comfort and the care, it really makes my heart melt. And was it just something that kind of took off by itself, and you knew she was the right dog for the job?
Miska has been trained as a service dog, so she's my personal dog. There are what are called therapy dogs, and those dogs go into those kind of environments, very common in a hospital or a nursing home. But I was able to bring her in because, she's my personal dog, so to speak. And, when you have a dog who is a service dog, you can travel with them, you can take them on any mode of transportation, legally within the United States, you can bring them anywhere. And it wasn't something, I really didn't sit down and plan any of this, to be honest. It just started, and I started to see the reaction of the people that I would bring her around, and I started to see her behavior with them, and it was just kind of something magical. And I knew that there was something very special here, and I wanted to build on it and continue it.
You know, Michael, you've received great praise for your work with Vietnam Veterans of America and all your many trips to Walter Reed. You've received letters of praise from Marine Corps League, American Gold Star Mothers, Vietnam Veterans of America, and many more. And we want to personally thank you for your dedication to our wounded warriors. But what's it like a day at Walter Reed for you and the dog?
I haven't been to Walter Reed since 2016.
Okay.
Fortunately, combat operations in Afghanistan are not at the level they were because there was a big troop drawdown. You know, we do have troops in country that are engaging the enemy, but in a much more limited capacity. But during the peak years from 2009, 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14, the hospital ward, the main hospital ward, was filled pretty much to capacity. You know, just about every room had a combat wounded service member. And then there was the ICU, the intensive care unit, which was a very, very serious area, which is in any hospital, but certainly in a military hospital. Those are the most catastrophically wounded and the ones in the worst shape physically. And there were times when some of those service members didn't make it out, which means, you know, they passed away. If you made it out of the ICU, then you're kind of on the road to recovery. You got transferred to Building 10 on the 4th floor, and you would go to the main hospital ward. Depending on the severity of your combat wounds, you would stay there for, you know, any number of months. And then after that, you go over to Building 62 into the outpatient area, and you would live there, probably with a family member. The new structure built in the past number of years. And then you would do a lot of rehab and physical therapy, occupational therapy. You'd probably get fitted with prosthetic limbs. They're actually made at Walter Reed. It's a special department that makes these state-of-the-art prosthetic limbs. So to be in the hospital room with one of these severely catastrophically wounded service members, the first thing I'll tell you is just a humbling experience.
Absolutely.
And it really, you know, when you see the wounds of war up front and close, it shows you the sacrifice. You know, it comes home as clear as it can be, and you see what these young men and some women are doing over there and what they've sacrificed when they sign up, and they're willing to even put their life on the line, you know, to go over and defend our nation, our freedoms, our liberties. And it makes you proud to be an American, and it makes you immensely grateful that we have people in this country that are willing to do this. You know, we owe them, it's like I call it an incalculable debt, which means you can't really calculate the debt we owe. It's hard to even think we could repay them, but we can try to do our best in any way we can to let them know that we appreciate their service and that they are not forgotten. That's one of the biggest things that I learned from being there all those years, and a lot of these service members would become veterans. You know, they do their med boards, come out of the hospital, and go back to civilian life. And that, you know, we still remember them. We still keep them in our thoughts and prayers. And if we can, somehow in our life, use some of our resources or in any way, shape, or form. I would just encourage anyone listening to this program, if you're out and about, you see an American who's a veteran, go up to that person and give them a heartfelt handshake and look them in the eye and let them know from your heart that you appreciate the service they've given to this country.
We have Pastor Michael Greene on. He has the Facebook page, Miska Blue Lives Matter. Miska gives comfort to those that are in need, such as our veterans, our police, and our service members. Now, Michael, it's got to be emotional work, but how is it when Miska and some of these wounded warriors of ours first meet? Is there excitement? Is it something where you always get a smile on your face, or is every situation different?
I mean, it's all, you know, different. Her personality is usually pretty consistent. She's such a good-looking dog physically. You know, she's pure white with these piercing ice blue eyes.
Unbelievable eyes. Beautiful eyes.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, just being out on the street with her, to be honest with you, I met a combat Marine veteran who served in Iraq and Afghanistan, and we got some great pictures with him. So we've had some tremendous experiences outside of a hospital setting, just spontaneous occurrences. Sometimes you get the best photos that way where, you know, you're somewhere and you just happen to meet someone and I just start clicking away on the camera, and I've captured some great moments of her interacting with veterans and whatnot. But in the other environment, look, dogs bring so much love and comfort, and dog is going to put a smile on just about anybody's face, and anyone who has been wounded or is in a veterans hospital for another reason, just have an operation for something that's not combat related. It's a tremendous experience for them, and it's a tremendous experience for me to feel that we're making a difference for that short period of time. We get to spend with them. That they walk away from that with something really positive.
Can Miska, and I don't know how to really ask this, but can Miska detect when one of these veterans is wounded? You know what I mean? Not that the dog would show any sympathy, but does she have an inclination of these folks that they're ill and wounded?
I believe she has that quality. Certain breeds of dogs in general, kind of have that intuitiveness, and they can pick up on things. And certainly, with her training and whatnot, I don't think there's any doubt that she, she picks up on that. Animals can sense things that we as humans don't completely understand, but we know they have that ability. And yeah, absolutely, she's definitely got that.
Yeah, and I don't mean to keep saying veterans, because Miska goes and gives comfort to all. I mean, children, seniors, the police, the veterans, you name it. You guys are all over the place. Now, I want you to have good, ample time to ask, to tell everybody where they can go check you out, and any information that they can get on with you and the dog and any of the work that you do, Michael. Please give that out to everybody, please.
Sure. The Facebook page is Miska, and the spelling is Miska. Says Blue Lives Matter, and you can find that on Facebook or through a Google search, but definitely through Facebook. And then her Instagram is Miska Blue Eyes. So it's the word Miska, Miska, then the word blue, and then eyes. And her Instagram is relatively new, but we're doing good. We're up to about 1,400 and some odd followers. Facebook page has been up for over a year, and we got a pretty strong following there. And I have other things I'm hoping that we'll be able to bring to fruition and accomplish with her in the future. We'd like to do a little more traveling, bring her into some other settings and environments where she could do a lot to benefit those that we're going to be able to meet with, and maybe get a video production company involved and get some real high-end quality videos of her interacting with the kind of people that we are very passionate about spending time with.
That's fantastic. And, Michael, next time, again, Pastor Michael Greene is on with us. Next time you come on the show, we're going to do a little talking about New York politics. We're going to talk about Trump. Michael's a great conservative, as you can tell, I'm sure. I don't think he really had to say that, but I've talked to him off the air, and he's just a fantastic guy. Michael, thank you for so much, for everything that you do for all the veterans and all the police and all our military members. Thank you so much, and God bless you, sir.
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Anytime, and I'll set up a new time with you soon, and we'll get you back on next month. Everybody, that was Pastor Michael Greene from Miska Blue Lives Matter. We're going to come back with a little local news over in Long Island in Manhasset. We had a sick professor preying on young children. He was talking to a detective posing as an 11-year-old girl. And they caught him. But we've got to watch out for these criminals, folks. Come back to Freedom on Deck. Welcome back to Freedom on Deck, 94.9 News Now, and stimulating talk. You are rocking with the best. You know where to keep the FM dial. Always tuned in to 94.9. Full Power Radio. Did I don't know if you guys got to see it, but did you see the gubernatorial debate for the GOP candidates in Connecticut that our good friend Lee Elsey, the host of the Lee Elsey Show, the Voice of Freedom, hosted? I thought it was great.
I did. It was actually very good.
Yeah, he did a great job. Good. Lee did.
Definitely some nerds up there.
Oh, big time. Well, has it ever been cool to be a Republican? I mean, it's cool to be a conservative, but to be a Republican?
I did. I wanted to go up, just hand out bow ties because they were pretty geeky.
Some of them I like more than others. I like the non-politicians up there more.
I like that Tim guy. I don't know what much about him, but dude, he was trumping them. He was calling them all out on their nonsense.
It was crazy. That's now you're making me draw a blank, but that's Tim Herbst.
Yeah,
strange name. Very weird name, but that's just another politician with a weird name. But the funny thing was when they asked them to all give Trump a grade in his first year, and they all said A. And I'm like, these guys are lying through their teeth. There's been so many shots they've taken at the president. Not all of them. But, but a couple of them. But anyway, listen.
Well, because they're in Connecticut. And I mean, if you're in Connecticut and you're a Republican, you're probably a Democrat light.
Yeah, but anyway, it was good. It was just a good job. I want to give Lee some credit to that. If he's listening, he did a fantastic job. But this is the part of the show where we go over some Long Island news or local news. We've been doing Connecticut and Rhode Island too lately, but this is in Long Island. In Ronkonkoma, a Manhasset man has been charged with entering into a sexually charged chat with a person he believed was a child. Police say Ashok Vora, and I'd like to know his nationality because he certainly isn't Irish, went online on February 12th and contacted an undercover agent posing as an 11-year-old girl. According to the police, the 70-year-old professor at Breault College then directed the agent to an online chat, exposed himself on a web camera, and engaged in a sexual conversation. An investigation led police to Vora's Hillcrest Avenue home, where he was arrested on Tuesday, and police say Vora used the username Kevin New York. He was charged with disseminating indecent material to a minor. Vora posted his $5,000 bail. Which
only $5,000?
I know, it's disgusting, isn't it? Isn't it?
I'm sorry,
pedophiles?
but that judge had 2 zeros missing from that number.
Absolutely. I agree with that. After his arraignment and his due back in court Friday, police are asking anyone who has been contacted by him, so they pretty much feel like he's done this before, to call the Special Victims Unit.
Of course, it's not. Listen, you're not 70 years old and just decided one day you were going to go solicit 11-year-olds.
Some people might wonder why we pick and choose stories like this to put on the show during the local programming and what we call Long Island news or local news. Because I think it's important to know how many pedophiles and predators we have lurking around Long Island and Connecticut. It's every week with this stuff.
Well, and not only that, but
and the positions of that they hold
correct.
Is the most disturbing.
That's where I was going with it. This is a highly educated professor of a college.
Mm-hmm.
This is not some drug dealer. This is not some crackhead. Okay? This is a professor.
And doctor.
Come on.
Yeah, it is. But Breault College released a statement, to be fair. We have to report on everything, saying that it became aware yesterday of the arrest and arraignment of Dr. Ashok Vora, a professor in the Department of Economics and Finance. The college takes these charges very seriously, and we will fully cooperate with law enforcement authorities in their investigation. You have to wonder, he's a professor. How long has he been a teacher? Has he taught in high schools before? Has he taught, has he always been a professor? Has he worked his way up? When did he start teaching? You have to wonder how much contact this
with
professor
younger kids
and doctor had with younger children.
When this stuff comes out, I always think about the people that knew him, that were around him. Neighbors that have children, young girls that went over to his house if he has kids himself. You know what I mean? Like, I would, if I knew this guy personally, if he was a neighbor of mine or whatever, the sick feeling in your gut that you must get when something like this comes out, knowing your kids were over at this guy's house.
Well, now his neighbors know about it, so I wonder if there's going to be a movement in the neighborhood to get him out of there, to move out.
Well, yeah, that's the thing about cases like this. And, there should be a movement to get that judge out with that $5,000 bail.
Well, come on.
That's another big part of the problem
we
here.
just had a story,
Long
not
Island.
that it's related, but you just had that story where the guy, was slapped with a very small fine.
$280.
Yeah.
For killing 2 Americans, and he was an illegal. We're talking about that at the end of the show today.
I'm just saying. You have to wonder where these judges' heads are at when they're... Listen, if I was a judge, boy, man, there'd be some really upset attorneys because I would have just, nope, no bail, done. You're a professor. You're sitting in jail because here's what would have happened. Because as soon as they know, even if you're in county, as soon as they know, you're getting your butt kicked, bro. At the very least.
Well, had this been a real 11-year-old girl, I think he should have been sentenced to a room alone with the father for a little while.
Yeah, and Bubba afterwards.
Yeah, and I wonder if he belongs to any secret societies. I wonder if Breault College will really cooperate, or whether they just
you don't know. You don't know. It's hey, listen, we can get into that at another time, but you might have a point there. These people, they're sick people. They're very sick people. I'm sorry, and for these colleges, clean it up. Clean it up. For these schools, clean it up. For these any place where we entrust you with our children, clean it up. Do a better background check. See what these people are involved with.
Yeah, as I
do
said,
some digging up on them.
As I said, in between segments to you guys, to my distinguished colleagues here, I did look up the name Ashok Vora, and I found out that it's Arabic for "I like children."
Oh, there it is.
Oh,
so that's an interesting little fact.
Makes sense now.
God, well, that's written in the Quran, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
There's all these because I got the story from News 12 Long Island. There's people commenting on it, and a few of them that are kind of interesting. John O'Connor says 5,000 bail, he gets probation. Gerald Tone says third worlder fills the USA with enrichment. Anyone responsible for the 1965 Immigration Act should be shot.
Man.
So
some rough people.
You got a Freedom on Deck listener there, I think. Listen, we're going to come back with the second guest of the day. We got Thomas S. Schmitz from Conservatives4Palin.com. Sarah Palin in the news again. We love her, but she was attacked by an extreme lefty Hollywood lib. And we're going to talk about that with Thomas. Don't you dare go anywhere. This is FOD. Welcome back to Freedom on Deck on 94.9 News Now and Stimulating Talk. WJJF on your FM dial, Connecticut, Long Island, and Rhode Island. You're rocking with the best. And when you're rocking with the best, you get some of the best guests throughout America. And our next guest is one of our absolute favorite people in the whole world. Straight from Los Angeles, the editor for Conservatives4Palin.com, Thomas S. Schmitz. Thomas, welcome back to the program, sir.
Hey, guys. How are you this weekend?
We're great. It's been about, well, I would say a little over a month since we've last had you on, but that's kind of standard. That's our thing now. And in your background in campaigning for Sarah Palin and the work you've done with Conservatives for Palin and the Tea Party, all the appearances you made, you spoke throughout California, we've never actually discussed a story that has to do with Sarah herself. But Sacha Baron Cohen has a new show coming out, and he actually duped Sarah Palin into doing a mock interview in which he disguised himself as a wounded veteran to trick Sarah and her daughter into showing up to speak with him. Sarah stormed out and took to social media to condemn Cohen for this behavior. Thomas, are there any boundaries for the leftist Hollywood elites anymore?
Oh, no. Without a doubt, there are zero boundaries on the left-hand side of the aisle. And, the Bible tells us about the left-hand side, and so I think we could just leave it at that and know what's going on here in this kind of American strive for authenticity, and we're not really getting authentic. It's very interesting from a cultural point of view where, the consumers really want authenticity and truth, yet instead we're being given and spoon-fed these paradoxes and these contradictions that are presented as truth, that if they match someone's perspective, it's taken as truth. I found it really interesting back in 2008 when Howard Stern sent some of his reporters out to canvass and to interview people on the streets of Manhattan, and as a joke, they would say things to people like, "Oh, don't you think it's great that Barack Obama picked a woman, Sarah Palin, to be his vice presidential nominee?" And the people that they interviewed would say, "Oh, yeah, we love her. We think it's great." And that just kind of tells you where we're at as a culture and the poison that is programming at this time. And reality television is really gone to a lower than I thought it could ever go. Back in those days, people vomiting on TV and fornicating on television, we thought that was a bad thing. But now we've gotten to a point where they are actually pretending to be Americans who have fought, willing to die and give all in love of country, just to make a buck at the end of the day. And I find that really disgraceful. And what's really interesting also is that this was booked through the Washington Speakers Bureau, which is sort of like the William Morris agency for the political politicians after they've left office. I mean, Sarah Palin is represented by the same agency there that has like Bill Clinton and Hillary and President Bush. It's called the Washington Speakers Bureau. And in her interview on Good Morning America, she told Robin Roberts, kind of as an offhand throwaway remark, she said, "I just assumed that, the Washington Speakers Bureau would have done a little vetting before giving me this." And she's right. That's their job. That's what they take 10% for. That's what they get paid for. But they didn't this time. It was just kind of given to her. And here we are today with this potential segment of hers that was filmed for 2 hours that'll be probably edited down to 10, 12 minutes.
Right.
And I'm sure they won't pick the most flattering parts. And it really speaks a lot about our culture and the depravity and where we are at right now as a nation, in as much as what we consider to be entertainment. Is mocking wounded soldiers entertainment? In my book, it's not. And I would wager that in most Americans' book, it is not. Yet Showtime has the luxury, because of their backers and their money, of putting out content that doesn't necessarily have to create revenue. Revenue is secondary to these people. The message, i.e. the propaganda, is above revenue. It's a very strange business model. In fact, it's not a business model because they put, making money below putting out a predetermined political message.
Thomas, do you think that there should be some organizations that get involved, as far as maybe the VA or the Veterans of America and the Vietnam Veterans of America, groups like that, Mothers of 4-Star Veterans, you could go, the list goes on, that should put pressure on Showtime to take Sacha Baron Cohen's new show off the air? And can Sarah get involved with that as well? Is that something that maybe could happen?
Oh, anything is possible. At this point, I think we're going to have to wait and see what the interview actually is, what is actually broadcast. because the question of stolen valor may be on the table. You know, the Stolen Valor Act was passed in 2013 and signed by President Barack Obama. And stolen valor is when someone impersonates or presents themselves as a service member who has received an award or acknowledgement for serving the country in a false pretense to create wealth, to generate an income. So I read the bill, the Stolen Valor Act of 2013, and upon first reading, it was my impression. Now, granted, I'm not a lawyer, thank God, and it was my impression that in order to be applicable to this situation, the Sacha Baron Cohen would have had to have said that he won an award or was presented an award. I'm not sure if stolen valor applies to just people who impersonate veterans, but upon first reading, I kind of got the impression that you do have to be found guilty, have said that you won an award serving your country. I don't know if that happened or did not happen. We'll have to wait and see when the interview airs. But regardless, at this point, it can be tried in the court of public opinion, which, as we move from a top-down to a bottom-up culture, which we're in the shift of that right now, kind of doesn't matter. And the court of public opinion, i.e. the pissed off moms whose sons died defending this country for love of freedom, flag, and faith, mind you, they have a say. But I don't know whether or not the stolen valor will apply, because again, I kind of think that Sacha Baron Cohen would have had to say, I won this award serving my country. I found it interesting in his rebuttal where he sent that snarky letter to Governor Palin saying that, he didn't serve the country as a warrior or as a veteran. He served the country as the post office man. So I don't know. We'll have to see. But, he's been doing this for years. Everyone remembers Borat. And the people who saw Bruno, the follow-up to Borat, where he played the gay Austrian fashion designer or fashion reporter, mind you. Yeah. That whole episode film really took gay people back, years, because that bordered pedophilia with what he did with that child in the film that he said he traded for an iPad and all sorts of stuff. When he was visiting Africa. But we'll see where this goes. I do give kudos to the governor. She's always at the front of this. She understood, like Andrew Breitbart did, that, culture is upstream of politics. And so she was right to take the job in the first place because, when you get a call from the Washington Speakers Bureau, who represents President Clinton, you kind of expect them to have vetted the job opportunity and for it not to turn out this way, where in fact it was not a job opportunity, it was an opportunity for her to be mocked. So shame on the Washington Speakers Bureau.
Thomas, let me ask you this question. If he was, because speech is described also in the First Amendment as the freedom of expression as well. So if expression is speech, if he's wearing a Purple Heart medal, let's say, or depicting a Purple Heart, would that be a violation of that Act 2013?
Well, the 2013 Act is very specific about what stolen valor is, and they say that stolen valor is more or less a term that's applied to this growing phenomenon of people who falsely claim military awards or badges that they did not earn. I do not know at this time if Sacha Baron Cohen falsely claimed a military award or badge that he did not earn. Okay. It can also apply to those who say that they performed a service that they did not perform, which is why I think that letter he sent where he specifically says, I never said I was a veteran. I was a veteran of the United States Post Office. And that phrase right there in the act, service they did not perform, that could end up being the dart that pins the tail on the donkey and gets him into a little bit of trouble. And my gut says that's why he put that in there, because the bill specifically says service they did not perform. And so he did not perform being a wounded veteran. So I don't know. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to see that maybe that's why he put in there that he was a United States postal worker and not a United States soldier.
So there might be a little bit of damage control going on here, you think?
Oh yeah, I don't think that was in there on accident. I don't, because now that the talk of stolen valor is on the table, we're going to have to wait and see. We're going to have to watch the interview and watch what was said. But it was malicious from the start, because he didn't just impersonate a veteran who was wounded. His team, the producers, when the show was done, they intentionally dropped off Piper Palin and Sarah Palin at the wrong airport, knowing that they could not catch a flight back to Alaska, which meant that Piper, who was in high school at the time, missed school. So, it just, right there, that shows what we're dealing with. People who think that it's a funny joke to send the former vice presidential nominee to an airport where she can't get home, they think that's cool, that's funny, that's something they should do. Most Americans, regardless of political affiliation, most Americans think that's uncool.
Absolutely.
And so we'll see. We'll see what happens, but we're going to have to watch the episode. But I'm glad she's out there and talking about this, because with this new MO.
Hey, Thomas, we do have a minute to go, so I want to give you an opportunity. I'm sorry to cut you off, but I want to give you an opportunity to give out the website and ask everybody where they can go and check you out, sir.
Oh, you can find me on Twitter, Thomas S. Schmitz, at Twitter. It's at Thomas S. Schmitz. And Conservatives4Palin.com, www.Conservatives4Palin.com. That's the number 4. And I posted about the stolen valor on yesterday, so that can be seen on the website. But for me, it's so much less about what he did and so much more about the state of the culture and what we consider entertainment. And
Absolutely.
This is not entertainment, this is politics, this is propaganda. Because, like I said at the beginning,
Thomas, we got to get going. I'm sorry, everybody. That was Thomas S. Schmitz from Conservatives4Palin.com. Come on back to Freedom on Deck. Oh, yeah, welcome back to Freedom on Deck. Go to FreedomOnDeck.com. Check out everything we have to offer. You're always welcome here on your Sundays. We appreciate having you. We're all Christians sitting here doing the program together. And it was an interesting story on Fox News that I came across as the Episcopal Church considering making God gender neutral. The Episcopal Church formed a committee Wednesday, which this came out on July the 6th, so you figure out what that Wednesday was, formed a committee to provide a pathway towards revising the Book of Common Prayer to include gender-neutral language. Church leaders called for immediate revisions to correct the overwhelming use of masculine language throughout the book, arguing that the language is now a hindrance to spiritual inclusion, according to the Episcopal Church website. As long as men and God are in the same category or work toward equality, will be incomplete. I honestly think it won't matter in some ways. Will Gaffney, a professor of the Hebrew Bible and strong advocate for the edit, told the Washington Post.
Well, there's only one problem with that I have with that is when Jesus was, dying on the cross, he said, "Father, why have thou forsaken me?"
Father.
Not
mother.
Yeah, not mother.
Nope.
Not
God.
Not Purple Penguin.
Right. Not my binky.
Right.
None of that stuff, and we're not trying to make light of
I'm just
our Lord and Savior.
Right. Not my lesbian, not my gay dad.
Right.
Not any of that.
None of that.
He said my father. And father indicates man, and man has penis.
Just the thing is
the way it is.
The thing is, the two sexes are for an animal species to procreate and make other of that same species. But God is a spirit. He doesn't procreate.
Is that how it is?
Yeah, well, a spirit is not a sex. But the grammatical rule is if you don't know what the sex is, you always say he, or when you're speaking about when you're writing and you're not specifying any particular sex, you always kind of lean to the he.
What about the angels that came down and had sexual relationship with women on Earth?
Well, that's a doctrinal dispute that we can have, but I don't think 5 minutes is enough time for that.
That's right. Listen, my real issue with it's not what you guys, and we can have that discussion, and I think we should sometime on this show.
I'm just saying that I'm saying
my issue is that the left is out of control again, going into the church. We got to be transgender this and transgender that and trans fluid and pansexual and this, that, and the other. I'm sick of it.
The point that I'm making isn't so much getting onto doctrine, but it's how do they stand behind a pulpit and talk about the Word of God or open that book up when those verses are in there?
I don't know. What it sounds like to me is they want to change those words.
Well, there's warnings about that too.
Well, I think that what I just said is the bottom line. Everything has become so sleazy when it comes to the left. They have infiltrated everything. It's not just the universities.
Well, it's breaking down every barrier.
It's not just the government. It's on our churches, and we know about it. We've talked about it. What about that new film Trevor Loudon's making, The Enemies Within the Church?
Sure. And there's plenty of enemies within the church. You can go look up the news article of the Argentinian nun that helped the priest rape little girls.
Oh, that one got me. That one got me fired up.
She was just arrested.
Yeah, and there are pictures of her with the children. It's disturbing. And where she actually had one of the girls wear a napkin because she was bleeding so badly from the sexual assault.
Sick.
It is sick. You got to watch your kids, folks. You got to watch your kids. You never know. It can happen over there. It can happen over here, too. And also watch what church you're going to. If you're into that kind of stuff, fine, whatever. But, Lord be with you. But for me, I'm not into it. Listen. We're coming back with Dan Newmeyer from the Dan Newmeyer Show right here on 94.9 News Now. And we're going to talk with him about all Trump's accomplishments, his tour across the pond, what's going on, and how he's fighting back against the globalists. Come back to Freedom on Deck.
Time to play the game!
Welcome back to Freedom on Deck on 94.9 News Now and stimulating talk. Make sure to go to freedomondeck.com, and through freedomondeck.com you can go to our Facebook, like us there, follow us on Twitter. You can start following us on BitChute, subscribe to our BitChute rather, and subscribe to our YouTube. All those things are on freedomondeck.com. Really easy. It's a one-stop shop. Listen, something happened with Dan Newmeyer. We weren't able to get him on this week. We'll be sure to include him in the next following week. But, guys, President Trump, he's over there. He's across the pond. And a little interaction with the voice of Jim Acosta. You will hear it here with our illustrious president.
John Roberts, go ahead, John. No. John Roberts, go ahead. CNN's fake news. I don't take questions. I don't take questions from CNN. CNN is fake news. I don't take questions from CNN. John Roberts of Fox. Let's go to a real network. John, let's go. Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you. Some people.
We're going to get into what Trump's doing over there, but the liberal media went crazy because John Roberts actually spoke to him. They're like, "How dare he?" After he treated Jim Acosta like that.
Yeah.
He's basically like, "Jim, shut up, Jim. You're fake news. No, not talking to you."
Dude, he is straight thug life, bro.
He is.
Gangsta.
He is, and I love it. I love when he does it because, there is a little showmanship to President Trump. He knows what he's doing when he does that.
Oh.
He does, and he knows it irritates them.
Oh, yeah.
Beyond imagination. Can you imagine? Acosta's night at the hotel was probably smashed mirrors and cocaine on the bedstand. I can't believe he treated me like that. And he's just stayed up watching the BBC over and over and over and over and over, watching President Trump saying, "I don't talk to you. Yeah. You're from fake news."
Yeah, I'm sure.
Fake news, folks.
If the BBC even aired it.
Well, anyway. So he's over there, he's in Brussels, and he's fighting back, guys. I wanted to discuss this with you guys because what did you guys think of him going over there and telling these other world leaders that we're being treated unfairly in the NATO setup, going as far as confronting Germany on their oil pipeline with Russia? It was strong words, or is this a president on a mission that's taking a stand for the American people because he has to?
Just like Ronald Reagan said, "Hey, Gorbachev, tear down this wall." That's how I would rank the breakfast that he had with those NATO leaders the other day. Mm-hmm. I mean, he really laid it on the line and said, "Hey, we're defending Germany against Russia while they're making under-the-table deals with a pipeline." I mean, it's ridiculous.
Hundreds of millions of dollars.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. But how do you say that against Germany when, the UK themselves are doing it? Russia supplies the United Kingdom with gas.
Yes,
they supply most of Europe with gas.
But Trump's colluding with them.
Oh, yeah.
Isn't that the funny part about all of this?
Besides, it's not 1945. It's 2018. Russia is not a threat to anybody anymore. They're not about to take over Germany. We don't have to be defending Germany against Russia.
No, of course not.
But on the other hand, if Russia was ruling over Germany, the German people would be a lot better off. So would all of Europe.
Well, I think what President Trump is saying here is you have the nerve to allow the United States to pay 70% into NATO when Russia's supposedly this threat, yet you're paying them millions and millions of dollars and they control you.
Right.
He's showing the irony in all of it. Mm-hmm. And it really is. And if he's such an ally of Putin, why would he even bring it up?
Exactly.
He wouldn't, because this happened under Barry. All this all this money funneling in from Russia.
Me? There's a video of Barack Obama saying to a Russian diplomat that this is my last election, and that once I'm no longer president, I'll have more freedom.
And
and you hear the diplomat say, I'll let Vladimir know.
Right, yeah.
What does that mean?
That's from 2012.
What does that mean, Barry?
We know what that means.
Give me a break. And let me tell you something, too. Trump put Theresa May on warning.
Yes, he did.
You want to do you're Brexiting? You're getting out of the EU? Then you want to do trade with us? Then you're going to play by our rules.
Yeah, stop slow walking Brexit. We're not going to deal with you.
Not only are they slow walking it, but they're basically coming to a crawl. Yeah. Brexit, what they have on the table now, is not for what their people voted for. This is not the Brexit deal that the UK wanted. This is fake. They're rolling it back. The reason they're prolonging it is to do that. And President Trump's saying no. Mm-hmm. And you know what? She probably will listen to him when push comes to shove.
I love that he's making Brexit a factor. That is great.
He should be.
And exactly. Listen, you got to hold people accountable. And if the people of the UK don't have a voice, okay? Tommy Robbins, if he doesn't have a voice, he got shut down, put in prison, and they threw away the key. So if the people over there in England don't have a voice of freedom, then isn't it kind of on us to be that voice, to hold their feet to the fire when those people there, and they're supposed to be one of our allies, their people said we don't want to be a part of this anymore, and they're gonna to go against their own people?
Of course it's supposed to be up to us to stick up for them. But you know what? The mainstream media doesn't make it look like that because they're globalist elitists that want the same old happening in Europe.
Scumbags.
Yes, they want it flooded by third world Muslim cockroaches in order to change the population. That's all that it is. I mean, that's what it is, plain and simple. Theresa May doesn't have to worry about it, but Tommy Robinson does. Or there are many other Tommy Robinsons out there. He's just the famous case. There are many other people that have been arrested in the UK for speaking up about what's happening over there. And that's not right, and we should stand up for that. But the mainstream media is so screwed up in their vile hatred for President Donald Trump that I really think and I know this kind of goes off base here for a second, but what Rod Rosenstein released and the immediate media coverage of it when he was meeting with the Queen to show that they had caught and put indictments through with 12 supposedly Russian spies and hackers, that was done while saying at the very end of the statement it did not affect any of the voting. Why did they do it when Donald Trump was out of the country?
Well, I mean, listen, I don't really care that they did it while he was in the country or out of the country. Here's the deal. It goes nowhere. Because first off, you're not going to go over to Russia and capture these 12 individuals. That's not going to happen. So there's no justice. You wasted millions of taxpayer dollars to come to the conclusion that everybody already knew, that you were hacked, okay, and that they put out for the world to see all this information from the DNC and the Obama administration. Great. You want to know? Good job. Good job, hackers, because now the corruption was exposed.
It's so bogus, these indictments in the first place. It's all fluff, first of all. Second of all, how do they know that Russia officials hacked into the DNC server when they never even looked at the DNC server? A Russian company, believe it or not, was assigned to examine the server, not the FBI, and they rely on the reports from this Russian company. Let that sink in for a minute.
There's a lot of irony here. My issue with the mainstream media is their madness. They are out of control. They are so pro-NATO, and they're so pro-European Union, and they're so pro-NAFTA that anytime our president, whom we elected, the people, not you, not Jim Acosta, not the Hollywood elites, not the liberals, but we the people. We elected this man to lead this country because we believed in what he was saying, and they don't. So anytime he goes over there and he talks harshly and he says America's not going to take it anymore, he's talking about us. He's talking about the ones that voted him in.
Correct.
He's talking about our veterans. He's talking about our men and women in blue. He's talking about our teachers. He's talking about our unions. He's talking about the backbone of America.
That's right.
And when he does that and the media says that he's out of line, they're telling you that you're out of line for having voted for him and having supported him.
That's right.
And every time they caught on a hot mic, a Barack Obama or Strzok, via text or whatever, or Hillary Clinton calling us deplorables, they're always calling us, smelly hillbillies, and we cling to our guns, and we're
wrap ourselves in the flag.
Oh, yeah.
We're suspicious of people who don't look like us, and please, they give it away all the time how much they have how much contempt they have for us.
Yeah, and then if it's not somebody that looks like us and it's a black person that maybe is a Republican and conservative, they call him an Uncle Tom and say they're a traitor to their race. So they give themselves away every time.
But it doesn't matter. And you know what? When you have Chucky Schumer coming out and talking about maybe we spent too much time on bashing Trump and blah blah blah, and talking about how the Democratic Party is back on message. You're not on message. You're not on message because your message it hasn't changed. It's still the same. Listen, you want to know what people think about this president? Why don't you go ask some coal workers that went back to work after this president took office?
Amen, brother.
How about that? How about some steel workers that went back to work after this president took office? How about some farmers that had their hands untied so that they can make a living for their families? How about you go ask them?
How about you ask our veterans, our VA members, who are now allowed to pick their and choose their own doctor because of the corruption in the VA that Donald Trump saw was unfit and unjust. Yeah, ask them what they think about
it. Ask the coal miners who are able to dig for coal again, and
ask our police who actually get treated with respect by our president instead of spit on. And you know damn well that was happening for the past.
Oh, I love every time he gets
those 8 years of Barack Obama.
Every time he gets on Air Force One or on the helicopters, Air Force One if he's on the helicopter. But every time he gets on, he salutes. He salutes that soldier.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Every single time.
He
doesn't have to be thrown off by the pilot.
Remember that?
And told to get off and salute the man.
Remember that?
No.
I remember
he
that.
doesn't have to be reminded because he takes pride in doing so.
Yep. I remember when Barack Obama did what you said,
that.
and I also remember the time that Barack Obama, in his arrogance, had a cup of coffee and gave him a half-hearted salute when he was coming down.
Yeah.
And you know what? President Trump, as much as you good liberals out there may hate the man, there's a video clip, and you can look it up yourself, where he's going onto the helicopter, and the helicopter, or it may be on Air Force One, but anyway, the wind takes the Marine's hat off.
Yes.
And President Trump himself makes sure to go and grab his hat on and put it on him just right, the way it should be put on, because he knows how to do that. He went to military school, so President Trump knows a little bit about that, and salutes him the proper way before getting on. You know damn well that Barack Hussein Obama would have never, ever thought of doing that.
He would have stepped on the hat on the way up. He would have thought it was a mat to wipe his feet on.
Well, that's what he thought of America, didn't he?
Oh, yeah.
That's what he thought of America.
You know, Trump is plain-spoken. He talks off the cuff, but every time Schumer opens his mouth, he's reading something. He has those stupid glasses on the end of his nose. I don't know what that look is all about. But who writes his speeches? How come he can't make a statement without reading? And he's like a poor reader, too. He sounds like Borat.
Borat.
Like Borat, who I want to punch in his stomach.
Call him Shorat.
Oh, man.
He does. He sounds like Borat reading all the time.
Well, we don't have a whole rabbit hole to go down Chuck Schumer, but he's good he's good friends with George Soros. I mean, there's pictures of him and the Soros family sitting down to dinner.
Oh, I'm sure.
I mean, that's who Chuckle Boys Schumer is. But listen, we're going to come back to Freedom on Deck. We've got one final topic to get to here, and it's this case in where this illegal alien murdered 2 Americans in a hit and run, or an accident rather, and it was an FBI agent and a fire marshal that ended up dead, and all this guy got was a $280 fine. Unbelievable. Come back to Freedom on Deck. Welcome back to FOD, Freedom on Deck, 94.9 News Now and Stimulating Talk. Full Power Radio. I am Chet Martin, joined as always by Brian Breaux and CV Berton. Gentlemen, it's the final thoughts. And we usually, we usually pick some of the most heartbreaking stories of the day for final thoughts. And this one is going to enrage you when I read it to you. This is coming from Fox News, and it was reported on Fox and Friends First. The wife of an FBI agent who was killed in a crash involving an illegal immigrant last year called the mere $280 fine ordered to be paid by the Guatemalan national a slap in the face to her family. Roberto Garza Palacios was not required to appear in court regarding the December 2017 crash that killed Carlos Wolf, 36, and Maryland Fire Marshal Sander Cohen, 33. Wolf's wife, Marla, said on Fox and Friends First that the light penalty shows that the justice system has failed her and her family. I would tell the judge that this sentence was just a slap on the wrist to Palacios, and it was a slap in the face to our family, she said. Cohen had stopped to help Wolf after he crashed his car on Interstate 270. Marla Wolf said that her husband was standing on the shoulder when Palacios crashed into them. Palacios claimed he did not see both men on the shoulder. No brakes were applied, found no skid marks from Palacios' brakes, and in addition, it was found that his car brakes were faulty, Wolf said on Tuesday. Now here's this guy, this scumbag Guatemalan national. Wonder why he didn't hit his brakes, or why he didn't notice that he hit two people. I wonder if by chance he was drunk at the time.
No toxicology, no blood tests, no sobriety test, nothing.
It doesn't say anything about that.
No driver's license, I'm sure.
Wolf said the officials didn't... Oh, wait a second here now. They did not test Palacios for drugs or alcohol at the scene of the crash.
Sue them. Sue the pants off of the department that did not test him at the scene.
This is sickening, man. This is like... How does this happen in our country?
Because I'll tell you how it happens. You get some liberal-run department that is afraid to grill an illegal on whether or not he was drinking and driving because of the backlash that you'll get when the media picks up the story,
right,
and tries to paint your department and your officers as racists. That's how.
Yeah, it was, according to Fox 5 DC, Palacios has overstayed a work visa that expired in 2009. He did not renew his visa and was arrested by immigration officers for being in the U.S. unlawfully. He also pleaded guilty to DWI in 2015, according to the Washington Post, and spent 4 months in jail for being arrested for vandalizing car windows. Real stand-up guy here. Real stand-up guy here. I'm glad we have these wonderful migrants coming into our country. They really add to our culture, don't they? I mean, diversity is great.
Wonderful.
My outrage is reserved for the law enforcement or the law not enforcement, because we have a 14th Amendment that says equal protection under the law, which is being violated every time they favor illegal immigrants, where they don't apply the law, they don't prosecute them, and they don't punish them as much as they would you or I. You know what I mean? If I did the same thing, forget it. I'd be thrown away for life.
You're right. You're right.
Not only that, but you have people being pulled over by police that are sober. You know what I'm saying? Citizens.
Yeah, we're not going to mention.
You know what I
names.
mean? But you're saying about it. You're like, wait a second. You know what I mean? This guy mows down two people. I mean, let's just put this into perspective. 2 people died. Okay? Anytime that there is a vehicular homicide, okay, or anyone dies in a car accident, an investigation is done. And they will make sure that the party who was the one who mowed down 2 people was not under the influence of anything. That is standard protocol for any police agency across this country.
You know, it's sick. CV talks about favoritism. Lee Elsey was telling me, I called about, we were talking about illegal immigration last week. I don't remember exactly what the topic of discussion was, but he was telling me that in Oregon now, they have an organization that helps pay for illegal aliens' brake lights. In case they have broken brake lights, they help them repair them.
They don't get pulled over.
So they don't get pulled over.
For driving
so
without
they
licenses.
take care of any faulty things they have on their car, including brake lights. Isn't that great?
Let me tell you something. I'm not going to say,
I'm
not going to
exactly what I'm talking about.
put names out there. But I funny story, kind of off the subject, but it kind of is on the subject. I was at a customer's house, and the property manager and I were talking, and we got to talking, her and I, and she's talking about how she had to hire the woman who used to take care of the property. She ended up retiring, and they hired someone else. This woman was the only person she could get that had an actual Social Security number. She was she was illegal. Anyway, make a long story short, she's making $35 an hour, and she tells her, well, my housing's going to go up from $800 to $1,200 a month. Why? Because she's on assistance, and now she's making $35 an hour. So she wants the extra $400.
Right. Isn't it great?
I mean, enriching.
Culturally
baby.
enriching. And the enrichment's great. I mean, it brings in violence and drugs.
I'm so warm and fuzzy inside right now.
You can tell. Look, it's hard to laugh when you're talking about things like this, but sometimes you really have to, because unless you'll go insane. And there's a lot of insanity we talked about this week. There's going to be a lot of insanity coming up next week, because we have 2 more great guests. We have Gordon Vidal coming on. He's from Injustice for All on 94.9 News Now. And we all know that Gordon, he's big into the conspiracy of what happened in Las Vegas.
Oh, yeah.
There was more videos withheld, some released. We're going to be talking about that with him, what's really going down in Vegas. And we also have Fran Banfield coming back, Punished for Protecting. This is part 2 of her interview with Freedom on Deck. And everybody have a very good day, and we'll see you back here. Same Freedom channel, same Freedom time. Good day.